and welcome back. What are some of the common mistakes I see when people correspond via email? That is the topic of this video. And there are several, and I wanted to go through some of them today. So, number one is not having a good enough title, or having a bad title or a bad subject line. Now, why do I say that? Some people think subject lines are not important, except they are important for a few reasons, or at least two that I'm going to talk about today. One, your customers are being bombarded with emails left and right. They may have other vendors where they have to go in and input their names in their mailing list to get some data sheets, so now they're getting emails from those people. They're getting emails from their dentist, their doctor, their lawyer, whoever it is. There's a bunch of emails, and they could all be going to their work email. I've seen people use their work email as everything email, so they don't have to look into multiple places. And the reason you want to make sure your subject line is catchy or it's good so that people can actually look into it and be enticed to read it. You don't want people to just figure out, like, yeah, I'll take a look at it later, this is not important. You need to make sure that it looks important and will entice them to open it. And the second thing is, it needs to be searchable. So having an email, I've seen so many emails where the subject line is follow-up. Like, so we just had a meeting with a customer and then we send them a follow-up email. Can you imagine how many follow-up emails they're getting from different vendors, different customers, different everything? So when you say just follow-up, have a dash and actually say the, like, state the problem that you're trying to solve, or the product, or like whatever company, like your company meeting, and don't say like I'm meeting. Let's say I'm meeting a customer called, what am I seeing here? Christine's. Don't say follow up meeting with Christine's. Say your own company's name, because she already knows she's working for Christine's. She has to search for your company name. So make sure that it's searchable. Try to do that. The second problem I see with emails is answering an email with a no right away. Like, do you support this feature? Nope, sorry, we do not. And this irks me. I've seen some people do that. Like, let's say there are a few different teams that are involved. Like, we're trying to sell a solution, not just a product. So there are several teams involved in the process, and the customer asks a question, and the response is, no, sorry, we can't do that. It's just, you don't even know why they're asking that question. Why are you saying no? It could be that they're not looking for that feature, but they're looking to solve a problem that they have, and they heard that this feature can solve my problems. So follow up, like, sorry, like you could say, sorry, like this feature is not available. However, why are you looking for this specific feature? Maybe we have something else that can help you. And then have a discovery call there. And that way you can actually get to the bottom of it. It's happened so many times where we actually do have a solution. They already own it. They don't even need to buy anything. So we've solved it another way. And the reason this is a mistake is the more and more we say, no, we don't have this, no, we don't have this, it opens up the door for the competitors to come in. Or at least for the customer to reach out to the competitor. Maybe they have that feature and we don't. Where did they hear about that feature? Maybe someone said that to them and now they're looking into it. So there are multiple reasons why you don't answer with a no. If you can't solve the problem, you can't solve the problem, but don't just assume that you can't solve the problem. Which leads me into issue number 3, assuming that you know what the question is about. Some customers just ask a question and we assume we understand it, which in many cases we don't, because it's email, and a lot of people don't have English as their first language. I am one of them, and I had to really work hard to make sure that I am clear. I read my emails like a few times before I send it, just to make sure that it is understandable and the point that I'm trying to make is actually made. Not everybody's in sales. Your customers are not in sales, so they don't generally care, and they talk to other people most of the time within their company who understand their language. They've been around them forever, so they understand what they're trying to say. In my previous company, I had a colleague who used to speak as if he's doing a math problem and he already knows half of the solution. So instead of doing step A, B, C, D until he gets to the answer, he does step A, X, Y, answer. So he misses a paragraph, but at first I didn't understand a word that he was saying. Towards the end, I was his translator. He would say something and I would translate for him to the customers. Same thing with the customer. He may think that he's understandable because his colleagues understand him. Just make sure you understand the question before you answer it. Because the worst thing that you can, well, not the worst thing, a really not so fun thing to get is like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the response that I've actually seen from the customer. He asks the question, people answer, and the response is, I don't know what you're talking about. Where are you this is not my question. I asked about this, not that. And then we have to go through that whole process again. And that leads me to issue number 4, going back and forth too many times via email. If it's going like, if he sends an email, you respond, then he sends an email, then you respond, at some point you're gonna have to pick up the phone and call the guy, or just set up the meeting with him to actually understand what the question is. I would say after the second response from the customer, if you're obviously like, this is going to be a conversation, sometimes you don't know it's going to be a conversation because, again, you may have misunderstood the question, or your answer may lead to other questions. You can just easily say like, hey, like, instead of going back and forth via email, can we just jump on a 15-minute call to make sure I answer all your questions in one shot? That way you don't have to waste time reading all my emails. Something like that. It works for me. And what was the last one that I wanted to talk about? Oh yeah, fighting via email. And generally speaking, we don't fight with customers via email, but I've personally been in a few back and forths that escalated with support or with PMs or whoever, and it didn't really need to escalate. Like, whenever you talk to someone on the phone, you realize that their tone is a lot different than their actual email implies, or you understood their email. And they could just be, that's the way they talk. Like, the tone is missing. So if you're feeling like things are escalating on the email, even if it's internally, because it is important, the way you look internally, you depend on the people that you're fighting with, right? Your support team, your product management team, your product marketing team, these are all people you depend on to make you look good in front of the customer. Because in the end, you're the one facing the customer. If something bad is happening with your product, you're the one who's listening to it. And you want to make sure that you're all on the same team. So fighting with them implies you're on different teams. Just pick up the phone and call. It's the easiest thing to do. So that's it. That's like good 5-6 things that I see with email. Try to fix those. If you try to notice what you're doing in the email. If it's one of these, try to find a workaround around it. Like, basically a phone call solves all problems, most likely. That's the solution to pretty much everything. Or a visit in person. But if you are geographically dispersed, your company might not like that. Anyways, that's it for me. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you share, subscribe, like, and leave a comment below of any other email issues that you've seen in your past or future. Bye.